Hello, everyone. I wanted to make kind of a sheet on how you could strengthen kind of analytical approaches. So I pulled from everyone's homework and just I'm going to take you through ways that you could focus on detail and then build into an argument. So this is a topic sentence. Now, again, topic sentences should be arguments. So if we read this, Connell introduces General Zarf in a rather disarming way. Now, the disarming way is definitely an interpretation, so now what we want to do is add an analytical phrase to strengthen the topic sentence. So a lot of important analytical phrases for the purpose of in order to, and I'll write all these in a moment, is a good way of now we have our kind of general idea. And then we build into an argument after we finish this kind of phrase. Same thing here. Notice in another topic sentence from someone, General Zaroff is introduced as a human, and Ivan is introduced as if he were an animal. Okay, great, right? That is, again, a good observation, good starting point. However, we're not quite done, right? To build a stronger analytical argument, now we could add in order to, and then finish that up, right? What's the purpose? What is significant, right? And we could even change that up to here, and maybe that would be a little bit better. We could say which is significant because, and then we could synthesize and analyze, right, what we're observing, right, what's meaningful, what's important about these two ideas. And of course, a minor grammar thing. So notice how we have our General Zaroff here and Ivan here. Since we have two separate subjects, we just want to separate that out with a comma. And then here too, again, good focus on the author. When Connell introduces General Zaroff, he does such in a way that makes the general appear approachable and welcoming, right? So good, right? And then here, which, or maybe we could hear in order to what, right? So adding these type of phrases to your topic sentence will almost automatically, after you finish the kind of, sentence now, this is how you kind of can build into an argument. So analytical kind of phrases. So obviously, again, for the purpose of, again, which is significant because, which is meaningful because, we could do something like that. You could also do something like which is important, right? And then, of course, that in order to, right? So the in order to is a really good one, especially when it's like author focused, because then it's the same thing for the purpose of what's the purpose, what's the meaningfulness, right? What's the significance? We could also do, which suggests, right? Or which kind of reveals. Then another kind of popular one is kind of which demonstrates. So these phrases too can help with the argumentation. Now, a lot of times with these last three, those would be more for like the middle part where the detail is, because but you could almost kind of have here, right? So like when Connell introduces General Zarf, he does such in a way that makes the general appear approachable and welcoming, demonstrating blank or revealing blank, right? Not as strong as in order to or for the purpose of, but these phrases definitely help, especially maintain an analytical approach in the paragraph itself. Now, the synthesis, too. Remember that the synthesis, the ending sentences, right, should be analytical. So notice here, so Rainsford does not believe that him killing animals is a form of murder, just as R feels that himself hunting humans is a murderous thing. Thank you, I'm a hunter, not a murderer. Detail, right? So avoid ending on detail, and that's going to be a crucial idea. So in this case, what you want to do is, okay, so like with these kind of differences, Connell conveys, blah, blah, blah. So words like convey, words, actually, let me just, so just to kind of show you too, if you don't know the synonym form with words if you're ever stuck in Word and you kind of need a help. Now, again, sometimes these aren't helpful, like expresses is fine, suggests is fine, right? Transmit wouldn't be helpful at all. But, words like, states, conveys, suggests, all these things will kind of help, again, build the analysis. So, same thing here, right? This was from the MST3K homework. So, George and Betty went home with a lot they had learned when they visited Uncle Jim's dairy farm. True, right? So, again, you need analysis. So, like, with this ending, the MST3K writers mock blah blah blah. So make sure pretty much at those kind of synthesis sentences, again, the key too is to focus typically on the writer, the author, the director, and so forth. And then you could build that analytical idea. Now, a lot of you are using the reader or the audience. Now, the key issue is the audience doesn't exist within the text. So, or within the movie. So, notice here. So, the purpose of introducing General Zarth as a harmless character is to try and assist the reader, right, in establishing commonalities. While that's, it kind of Kano's intention, when we're analyzing, we can't really assume or we don't really need to focus on the reader. So, in this case, our harmless character, 2, and then we'll use what's already here to establish commonalities between General Zarlov and Rainsford. And then here, right, so now we could do like Connell establishes this commonality to, again, let's just use the word convey. So to convey, and then now we could build up our analysis. And same thing here with this kind of sentence here, when you see the reader should pay close attention, right? The reader doesn't have to do anything, right? We as readers, could do whatever we want, right? What we want to do is, again, focus on the actual idea here. So the last statement that Rainsford makes to General, I'm Beast at Bay, right? And then here demonstrates what? So now we could actually build an analysis here. Same thing here. This is from another one where it says it draws in the audience more to have them even more engaged in the story, and also the plot twists and so forth, right? The story while showing how everything unfolds. In this case, right, we can't assume that it draws in the audience, right? So what we want to do is refocus here. And in this case, we could say something like, the director, Ralph Brooke, attempts, right, to have the audience more engaged in a story, and then we could actually have a good specific idea. By what? So a lot of times what happens when you're focused on the audience or focused on the reader, the idea itself gets hidden. And so we want to stay focused on the director and writer. Now, this is a grammar thing, so again, go back to 1060 and so forth, but notice how this quote here is just by itself. There's no phrase that introduces it and so forth. So we want to be cautious of dangling or what's called drop quotes. So a quote shouldn't be a sentence by itself. So here we want to say, okay, so is this the character, the narrator, or in this case, this is Zaroff talking. So like General Zaroff says, and then we have that quote. And then in this case, instead of saying the quote from General Zaroff, all you need to say is then General Zaroff, right? General Zaroff displays that he is just a being who has similar interests and so forth. And then, again, that's how you want to always make sure that you have what's called a signal phrase introducing a quote. And minor thing, too, I saw a couple people do this, too. In terms of MLA, all you need is the numeric. You don't need any kind of letter or anything like that. Now, another way to increase argumentation is to get rid of the first person. So the first person is useful in self-reflection and so forth. When we get to analysis, however, it's typically not helpful, and this is why. So, this is one example. In a sense, I think this approach may prolong the unveiling of the theme for the reader. I think ultimately Rainsford wanted the ultimate prize. Now, we can't argue thoughts. We could argue opinions, but we can't really argue thoughts or beliefs or something like that. So, a lot of times, what happens when we have the first person is the argumentation is buried. So, what we want to do is get rid of this first person and actually just start here. This approach may prolong the unveiling of the theme. Now, in this case, again, we get rid of the reader as well, right? And then we use one of our analytical phrases in order to what, right? What's the purpose? And here, right, I think ultimately, again, notice how if we remove the I think, here's the direct argument. Rainsford wanted the ultimate prize to hunt the most dangerous beast, and so forth, right? Now, then you could, of course, now justify, right, that interpretation. Same thing here if you use like we could see, right, very audience-centered words, right? We can see General Zaroff. Here, again, what we do is we take away that first person. We begin with the actual focus, right? General Zaroff and Rainford act as foils to each other in many different ways, right? And then here, which Connell establishes to show what. And same thing here, right? Again, I believe, right? I can't argue beliefs, right? We can't debate beliefs. If you believe something, that's your belief, right? I can't be like, no, you don't. That's why that first person typically is a hindrance to argumentation. So what we want to do is, again, all we need to do is take that out. Rainsford kills General Zaroff instead of subduing him because deep down, Rainsford knows that he, the hunter, he will always take his shot. He will always be the hunter, not the huntee, right? So again, when we take this out, argumentation becomes more direct. Same thing here. Again, the story tells us all about. All you need to say is the story tells about the main point and so forth. And then, of course, you would want to extend that. But, here's, again, just a couple examples of why typically when you're analyzing, the first person will not actually be useful because it deflates the argument. Same thing with that second person a lot of times, right? Just because you're not using concrete nouns. So here, by Rainsford saying that the world is made up of two classes, it showed that the main theme of this story would be that, and in the story, and again, also pay attention to repetition too, but you have to choose if you're a follower, right? So in this case, what you want to do is, again, you don't want to talk to me directly as a reader, right? So you always want to use specific nouns. So even if it's general, something like people, right, have to choose if they're a follower or a leader. Something that, again, is at least a concrete noun that I could measure, understand, and so forth. Now, again, it's very important in terms of writing. The best writing starts with verbs, and then the second is specific nouns. So you want to always make sure you have good specific nouns here. So same thing here. Again, a lot of people use that second person because it's conversational. We do it all the time. But when you're analyzing, you want to have, again, a good specific idea. So just by introducing animals which are actually humans, you see the difference, which is enough to separate, right? So here, right, what would be a good thing to do would be Connell, right? Connell. Let's see. So we could almost say something like Connell focuses on the differences, which is enough to separate the two. And then, again, here to convey what, right? And here, again, notice that second person. So we have a good quote, sets the dialogue for the main theme of the book. We'll get to that in a moment. Make sure your genres are specific. It's a short story. In that, whether one is human or not, you, right? Again, just say they in this case because you already have the human. So again, just simply, and what you could actually do is here, whether it is a human or animal, they are weak or strong, intelligent or ill-advised, and so there's a lot of different ways that you could easily refrain from using that second person. Now, I noticed a couple of you just said the author a lot instead of just conveying the name. So again, make sure you name the author. It will help to, again, refocus that analytical approach. Now, I've seen a few times too, and again, this is, of course, carryover from APA. Since we are using MLA, we want to just have the page number at the end of the sentence, regardless of where it is or where the quote is in the sentence. So, same thing here, where it says, like, if you say, like, the idea on page 5. So, all you need to say is this idea appears when Zaroff says this, and then notice the parentheses is before the period, but after the quote. Now, another important aspect is this is not a noun. So notice how this proves, and I pulled this sentence, and this is why, right? This is not a noun. We always need something after it if we're going to use this. So notice how if I remove this sentence from the previous sentence, right? You don't know what this is, and that's why we always need it. This what proves. So this is an important aspect of why we always want to be specific as well. So again, just make sure that this is not a noun. Now, as I said with the previous one, you also need to know examples. A lot of you called it a book, and then some of you even referenced it as an article. Remember, it's a short story. Genres are important, and that's actually one of the major requirements for this class is that you understand the difference between genres. So remember, The Most Dangerous Game is a short story, Hamlet is a play, and then the Outlaw of Gore is a novel. So make sure that you use specific genres appropriately, because that's an important aspect. So again, I just wanted to go over a couple of these ideas to help, again, strengthen analytical approaches, but also to strengthen just your writing in general. And again, focusing on the specific ideas will help strengthen your writing as well as argumentation and so forth, using specific nouns, using stronger verbs, being, of course, appropriate with and proper with citations and so forth, using, appropriate genres. So all these will kind of help increase, of course, your grades, but also make you a better writer. So again, here's just a few suggestions. I'm sure I'll have more with the next kind of assignments I see, but these are just some of the general kind of aspects that I saw that we could all improve upon. Obviously, if you have questions, post them to the Canvas forum or email. If not, just good luck with all the assignments this week and take care.